Hello and welcome to the DSR Daily. I'm David Rothkopf, one of your hosts. Your other hosts are Riley Fessler. Hi, Riley. Feeling ready to host today?
Yes, I'm back in DC, so I'm ready to go.
Ready to go. DC is a great place to be. We're all excited. There's going to be a big speech tonight. I know who's looking forward to that. Minna Stein. Are you going to be sitting there with popcorn, taking notes? Donald Trump speaking to a joint session of Congress?
You know it.
Yeah, no, what could be more exciting than that? That's why we all gravitate here. That's why you need to be careful when you come to DC, because it's full of people who are like, oh, it's cool. You know, it's cool that he's giving a speech. And of course, we know the truth is it's not. It's pretty horrible. Okay, which one of you wants to start us off with today's latest horrific developments on life here on the cursed planet Earth?
I'll kick us off with some cursed news.
Yeah, okay.
President Trump has ordered a halt to U.S. military aid to Ukraine following a heated argument with President Zelensky, demanding Ukraine commit to peace talks before resuming support. The pause could severely impact Ukraine's war efforts, particularly its use of advanced U.S. weapons, potentially leaving a significant capability gap. The decision has sparked mixed reactions in the U.S., with some Republican leaders supporting it due to concerns over continued funding, while others, like Senator Susan Collins, argue that halting aid risks weakening Ukraine and emboldening Russia.
Well, that's great. Another hot flash from Susan Collins, who's probably very concerned again about this kind of stuff, but she keeps approving all of these people. Backing Trump, protecting Trump during impeachment, backing people like Gabbard, backing people like Hegseth, and so forth. But for those of you who have been joining us here at Deep State Radio for, the past 10 years, we've said this is where this was headed. This is, Donald Trump supports Russia. We are now allied with Russia. During the election, we said, what will Donald Trump do when he gets elected? He will stop supporting Ukraine. He's making up all sorts of nonsense about the support of Ukraine, saying, well, Zelensky's not ready for peace. But the word peace is carrying a lot of weight there. Why? Because he doesn't mean peace. What he's saying is Zelensky is not ready to surrender to Russia and accept all of Russia's terms. And that's what Trump is trying to bully Zelensky into doing. And Trump's simplistic view of the world was, well, Zelensky depends on the U.S. If we pull U.S. support, Zelensky will fold like a house of cards. We will be able to deliver a victory to Putin, win-win all around. Okay, and then I will be viewed as a peacemaker, and I will get the Nobel Prize. That's how he thinks of these things. Unfortunately, none of those things are true. Zelensky's not going to fold. The Europeans are going to support him, even if the Europeans didn't. Ukrainians have to fight for their own land, and they're not going to capitulate to the Russians. Trump's attempt at an extortion deal to get a hold of rare earth minerals that may or may not exist in Ukraine didn't work, and his attempt to bully Ukraine didn't work. And that was predictable. And now we are exactly where we predicted, which is he's temporarily suspending this kind of aid. Now, that was predictable. That doesn't mean it isn't damaging. It's hugely damaging. And it's not just damaging to Ukraine. It's damaging to our allies, our alliance, and to anybody who believes the word of the United States. Because the United States has been saying ever since Ukraine gave up its nuclear weapons as part of the Budapest Accord, that we would back them in the event of, sort of Russian aggression. And you know what has happened? We're not. So we've broken our word multiple times over, and that's a Trump hallmark. And that's what, is going to cause people not to want to cooperate with us, share intelligence with us. And it's going to take a long time for us to recover from it. Not just getting rid of Trump, but getting rid of people who are Trump-like, Trump supporters, because people just won't know where the U.S. is going in the future. Riley?
With less than 2 weeks before a March 14th deadline, Republicans and Democrats in Congress remain far from a deal to avoid a government shutdown, as disputes over Trump's spending cuts and policy actions complicate negotiations. Democrats are seeking guarantees to prevent further federal worker layoffs and program cancellations, while Republicans accuse Democrats of including poison pills that restrict Trump's authority. Both sides face pressure to fund key agencies and address military needs amid global challenges, but a stopgap funding bill remains uncertain. Failure to reach an agreement could lead to furloughs, halted operations, and the second government shutdown in recent years.
Wait, what? Furloughs? People not working in the government? Oh my God. That's going to be a real blow to Elon Musk, who's trying to fire everybody in the government. If Democrats, cut a deal and make it easier for Mike Johnson and for Trump, it would be pathetic. Pathetic. Okay? They're violating the law. They're violating the Constitution. When they talk about poison pills, they mean things that require the president to follow the law. That's not a poison pill, okay? That's the way the government is supposed to work. If the Democrats sort of cave, it's going to be pathetic. They should just say to the Republicans, you want a continuing resolution, you want to carry forward, we're going to do it at this funding level that we're currently at, and you guys can't unilaterally then ignore this funding deal, because that's what Trump is doing, and not spend the way the Congress wants to spend. This could be a crisis. I would add that the crisis is going to take place in the context of a growing economic crisis. With the tariffs, and you saw the stock markets go down, we'll talk more about that in a second, with the firings in the federal government, with the insecurity about America's role in the world and our policies, with rising inflation, we're heading towards a potential recession in the United States in the first few months of the Trump administration, 100% as a result of Trump policies. A government shutdown in the middle of that, just going to make things worse. That's why my guess, they come up with a deal that looks like past continuing resolutions, and then Trump ignores that and continues to go ahead and do things like, yesterday the education secretary was approved, fresh from her career in wrestling business, and issued a memo saying our final mission is to dismantle this agency. Except the agency was set up by statute, right? The law says this agency should exist. So the president actually doesn't have the authority to do that. Will that stop him? No, it will not. Minna?
China and Canada quickly retaliated against the U.S. after the imposition of new tariffs, with China imposing additional tariffs on U.S. goods and Canada announcing levies on $155 billion of American products. The tariffs targeted a wide range of goods, including agricultural products, and could disrupt trade between the U.S. and its top 3 trading partners. While U.S. officials cite fentanyl-related concerns as justification, both China and Canada argue that the tariffs are unfair and could harm the economies of all involved, with Canada considering further retaliatory actions, such as cutting off electricity and nickel shipments to the U.S.
More than considering, I think they're moving ahead with that kind of stuff. But, in terms of Canada and Mexico, Trump saw that we have, deficits, and that this is the result of what our trade deals were with Canada and Mexico. And, he wants to stand up against those terrible trade deals, which, let me look this up. Riley, you're always looking things up. Who negotiated the Canada and Mexico trade deals that we're currently living with? Do either of you guys know who negotiated that when they happened? You don't have to look that hard, guys. It was Trump. Trump was the guy who negotiated the deal. The deal Trump hates is Trump's deal. Why? Because it's complete bullshit. Okay? This is part of Trump's animus against these places. It's part of somebody has put the birdie in Trump's ears that tariffs really work and somebody else pays for them. Of course, that's not true. And one of the reasons given for putting these tariffs in place is the massive flows of Fentanyl across our northern border. How much fentanyl flowed across the northern border in the past year? 40 pounds. Nothing. It's nothing. It's complete bullshit, and it's going to cause caused market problems yesterday. It's going to cause bad relations with these countries, and it's going to cost who? U.S. consumers, Canadian consumers. It's going to push up inflation everywhere. The Chinese have stepped right in and said, okay, here are a bunch of retaliatory tariffs. As well they should, as well anybody would in this case, as well the Europeans will in this case when he starts doing tariffs on them. He thinks, and he has managed to persuade people who ought to know better in his cabinet, that by putting these tariffs in place, we can make the case that this is going to be new revenue to the United States government, so it justifies the lowering of taxes. Not on all of us, by the way, just on the rich. Of course, it doesn't. And when that's proven out, after the tax cuts are approved, he'll say, oops, and, we'll be, off to, clean up on aisle Trump again. But this is bad policy. And if you don't believe me, just Google Smoot-Hawley. Okay, the last time we did this kind of idiocy in the 1930s. Riley, please, something better.
No. It's something different, at least.
Okay, that's great.
Arab leaders are meeting in Cairo and are set to propose an alternative plan to President Trump's controversial suggestion to depopulate Gaza and redevelopment, as the Israel-Hamas ceasefire remains fragile. Egypt's proposal includes relocating Palestinians to safe zones within Gaza, rebuilding cities, and establishing an interim administration until the Palestinian Authority can take control, though Israel opposes any role for the authority in Gaza. Meanwhile, Israel has blocked aid to Gaza to pressure Hamas into accepting a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal, which includes releasing hostages but excludes key Palestinian demands like prisoner releases.
Look, we can only hope that this effort works, right? It was the folks in the region who came up with the Abraham Accords, which were led to normalization. And it's the folks in the region who are ultimately going to have to pay for rebuilding Gaza. And so the folks in the region are the ones with, as Trump likes to say, the cards. And so they, I think, will be able to influence the outcomes there. And of course, the outcome can't involve ethnic cleansing, as Trump has seemed to suggest he wants it to. No matter what the solution is, of course, Trump will claim credit for it. I don't care. Let's get a solution. Let's give credit wherever anybody wants the credit. As a former U.S. CEO subsequently discredited Jack Welch of GE used to say, there's no limit to how far in life you can go if you're willing to give somebody else the credit. Let's just get it done and move on from the horrors that exist around this part of the world and this particular conflict. Minna?
The Trump administration has dismissed several National Science Foundation employees, including experts in AI, threatening the agency's ability to maintain essential AI research. As a result of these layoffs, key departments like the Directorate for Technology, Innovation, and Partnerships have faced canceled or delayed review panels, hindering AI project funding. Critics, including AI pioneer Geoffrey Hinton, have condemned the cuts, with Hinton calling for Elon Musk's removal from the British Royal Society due to the damage to U.S. scientific institutions, while Musk acknowledged his mistake in response.
Yeah, and he wasn't removed at the end of the day. But look, we can talk about this in a lot of ways, and you probably, maybe you've heard of the National Science Foundation, maybe you haven't, maybe you've heard of these experts, maybe you haven't, maybe you've heard of the experts at NIH who are doing the advanced research on biomedical issues, maybe you haven't, maybe you're aware of what kind of research is going on at your local universities that is being stopped or curtailed. Or maybe you're aware of the research that's going on at the Center for Disease Control or elsewhere that have been stopped or curtailed. Let me make this super simple, okay? What Donald Trump is doing what Elon Musk is doing is lobotomizing the United States. If what you do is you stop federal research funding in critical areas, we will not only put out of work a lot of scientists, they will move someplace else, but we will also fall behind in critical areas that will weaken our economy, that will weaken our national security, that will weaken our society overall, and that will ultimately make us dependent on the other societies that are actually doing the research. Scientific research universities are among the best advantages the United States have had for decades and decades and decades. They have been our sort of secret sauce that have driven us forward. Shutting them down, making it harder to get research, making research contingent on onerous requirements regarding DEI, shutting down the Department of Education and education programs for younger Americans just starting out in the school system, is a lobotomy. This is the Trump lobotomy for the United States of America, and it is going to damage us as much as anything else that he is proposing. And I include in that gutting our democracy, ending the rule of law, blowing up the international order, and destroying our economy. So those are all pretty serious things. This is just as serious. And you guys have failed in your effort to come up with anything positive. And I just hope that tomorrow morning we'll be able to say Donald Trump gave a great speech in front of the Congress. It was inspiring. His use of poetry, song, and dance was especially moving to all of us. And we are lucky to have him as the president of the United States, at which point I will expect both of you to stand up and sing the national anthem. Okay, so that's how tomorrow's going to go, because I'm tired of this negativity. But until then, everybody, join us for our other podcasts because they're real interesting. And join us again tomorrow right here at the DSR Daily. Bye-bye.